So one of the questions another question I had today was, I was interested to know which books in your library at home um, are really important to you, and wondered if you would like to comment on that a little bit.
If I were picking the favorite book, my all-time favorite book, it would be Barbara Crow's edited edition of the Radical Feminist Reader. I think it's called.
Radical Feminism.
Yeah, Radical Feminism. Now, the reason that's my favorite book is I knew that I had some feelings about protecting women or about the difficulties that a woman's role brought, but I could never really articulate why or what that was happening there. And that's because I am a radical feminist, but I didn't know what that meant, and I didn't have a definition for it, and I never found any groups of radical feminists. And so it wasn't until I took that book and used that as a text that I got to read through all the kinds of radical feminism. For example, one of the radical feminist groups are the women who were worried about children and who were worried about childcare and who were worried about the working mothers and how to make the children safe. So in another, I remember that one especially because when it came to time to write an essay, I thought, who wants to write an academic paper on childcare? Would that even get a mark? But we could go right through. So there would be the, well, we'll go through and look at the titles of all of those just to tell you that when I got the idea that all these women were talking to each other and were writing and were publishing pieces and were sending out zines to each other during a time when I too knew something really wrong was going on, then I kind of got a sense of my place in the universe when I hadn't had before. So I felt in solidarity with all the women who would have been writing these chapters. Some of the chapters are radical. Some of them are pretty tame. When I've had boarders, mostly immigrants from far away, and they want to know about American women, I tell them, look, the place to learn is from looking at this reader. And then I tell them 2 or 3 articles to read, and they all go out and read it because they're fascinated about the American, or the we'll call it the North American woman's mind, if there is such a thing, because we know that now that this group of women also eliminated some others, but grouped in some. So we're not going to beat up on anybody from the past. Just
but here's the table of contents.
Oh, that's beautiful. Can you take it?
Yeah.
Screen?
Yeah, but it's being shared. That's what they'll see. So we've got here, like, what is liberation?
Wait, look at scum.
The Scum Society.
For cutting up. So this is a piece written by Valerie Solanas, and she's the man who shot Andy Warhol.
The woman who shot Andy Warhol.
So then she wrote this manifesto. So you'll have to, if you're so lucky as to get a copy of this book in your library, if I were telling people about my favorite books, I would say, get out there and start your own feminist library. Look, there it is, daycare. Who cares? And cooperative nurseries. Who cares a quit about that? But in the 60s, we cared because women were made poor because they couldn't be supported. So,
Black lesbians in white America, Black women's liberation.
Yeah. Slavery or a labor of love. Women in the left, just Lesbians in Revolt. Oh, so sweet. So that's all. That's my favorite book, I would say, or I would have that as a text. I want to tell you one more thing about lesbian women. I'm reminded that when Tanya lived with me, we would go out to lectures at the university, and sometimes the woman would have lesbian politics. And Tanya told me that once I came over and whispered in her ear, listen carefully, Tanya, and don't be afraid. These women are not scary. So that's really funny. And then the best video I ever saw done by a lesbian was, she said, somebody asked, how do you protect yourself? And she said, I have a knife and I know how to use it. And they said, oh, what does that mean? So she picked up this knife that belonged to her, flipped it open, and then she said, I use it to peel potatoes. Oh, I laughed so hard. It's hard not to love the lesbian feminists from the 60s. Though I'm not one of them, I loved them all.
And if anyone wants Arta's copy of this book, I'm not in competition with you because I went out and bought my own copy of this book. So it's available for someone else who would like to have it.
And the thing is, if you want to understand what was happening, then here's 600 pages carefully collected so that you can understand what was happening in the 60s. So I think I was telling you, Rebecca Rose, that you have to go into every decade and read some of those women and then see what they were thinking and what issues they were kind of fighting against or working toward or trying to eliminate or trying to show the world how this wasn't fair. Oh, anyway, thanks for listening.